Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful Wednesday. We are at Hump Day. That is mass critical, as you know, for the weekend. Next day is Thursday. Next day is Friday, and then we get to go and do it all over again. Shout out Masjid Watin Muhammad in Houston, Texas, Third Ward for an amazing presentation. The Bean Pie Festival, where we had some of the best bean pies cooked, prepared, and judged from all over the country. Shout out to Brother David Muhammad, who had the winning bean pie, and he also got a check for $2,000. I can't remember who the $1,000 person was and the $500 person, but the person who had fourth place got discount tickets to Davita Diabetes Dialysis Center. Alhamdulillah. So I'm glad everybody was able to jump in and have a good time. And on Sunday in Houston, Texas, that Sunday they had the Impact Awards ceremony hosted by Master Tawheed under the leadership of Imam Qasim Khan and his strategists and loyalists and volunteers did an amazing job. We had everybody there. We had my gosh, we had Imam Zaid, we had Dr. Sherman Jackson, we had Sister uh, Nadia Ahmed. We had everybody there. Sister Aisha Mustafa was there from the Muslim Journal, and she gave an amazing and impactful speech. But we had a good time. Omar Regan was there on the entertainment side. It was something really, really to behold. A beautiful community event. And I want to shout out everybody that came out and showed their support and love. Very, very proud. You're talking about distinguished, very, very distinguished African American Muslims. We haven't seen anything like that. I hope that tradition continues. I know that Imam Qasim poured his heart into it. This was a process that he lent his energy, his blood, sweat, and tears in for probably about 7 months, and he did some amazing things. So shout out that way. Also, I want to give you a shout out to the Muslim singles that came out, and my main man Wafiq Zafir, who also did comedy last week on Saturday for the Culture Night at Masjid Watin Muhammad. It was a lot of stuff there. I'm here to tell you, it was a lot of things going there. Today, brothers and sisters, I am really, really adamant about how we represent our Deen, how we represent our belief. And let me frame this for you. This is not just for the Muslims. This is for the Christians. This is for the Jews. This is for all these people that claim to be faith based. Faith has taken a backseat to fear. That saying means that there's the clear, tangible texture of the fact that we don't know what leads us. I had this situation, or I have this conspiracy that, and I've had it for a long time. It's probably led to me being Muslim. It's just the fact that people in particular situations tend to play their faith small and not play it big. They play it small, or worse, they don't play it at all. In that space, I think that we created these pockets, if you will, of inactivity, but it's a particular type of inertness. It's a typical type of just paralysis, whereby when you don't have a driven perspective for your faith, then everything around you becomes fair game. Everything around you becomes a case of how, if at all, hear me now, how, if at all, do I got myself to this world? How, if at all, am I able to, for lack of a better word, navigate, not only navigate, but set up a guide, set of pathways for the people that come behind me? I said this before, and I mean it. I think one of the most driven eras of African American history is coming out of the slave tradition. Why? It required a certain amount of strategy, it required a huge amount of discipline, an incredible amount of faith, resilience, all the things that we categorize as a part of faithful living, our Deen, but now somehow it's gone. I've said it, and I will not back up off of it that, there are parts of this Muslim community that are weak, that have moved astray. You can call it the attraction of the dunya. You can call it the love of money and things like that. But you take the money and the dunya away. This is about character. And when your deen is not attached to your character, it is problematic. Because a part of religious life, okay, a part of religious life, I didn't say perfect religious life. I said, but a part of religious life is that it requires a particular type of ethic. The ethic that drives you to say, I'm going to pray. If you pray once a week, not 5 times a day, once a week, the ethic is there that you can do more. The ethic is there that somehow, someplace, that once a week you're going to stop and this is what you're going to do. Now, and I'm going to say this because when I became Muslim, probably for about a month and a half, I was the month and a week. I didn't 1 month or once a week getting prayer or once a day. I knew about Fajr, I didn't know about anything else. But my point was, coming off of taking Shahada, there was a narrative that my life had changed, that I had to make new allowances to live this faith. Why is this important? It's important because we're in trouble. It's important because Muslims have bought into a weird type of social religious tokenism, and it's killing our community. All right, I'm going to be right back. We're going to be talking about it. Don't you move. This is Preacher Ma saying, live your deen out loud. Please, let's roll. Okay, well, I guess we're not going to roll. All right, before we get started, we'll give a shout out to our shout out show family royalty. I'm going to first go with everybody we got in the comment section. Then I'm going to go to IG World. First and foremost, we'll give a shout out to my main man, Altar for Sheep. Why like my salon offer to it, but Kato, he's our Canadian envoy to the show. We call him Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Always here to give opinion, support, and love my main man and no terrorists. Good to see you, brother. I want to give a shout out to my main man, Abdul Wahad Muhammad. Why like my salon offer to life, but Kato, good sir, good seeing you this weekend, man. I always enjoy seeing you and your family, man. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting the Bean Pie Festival. They need to have a banana bread festival because your mom be killing it. But I'll let that go. But we'll come back to that later. Shout out to my brother JT. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good sir. Good to see you. Good to see you in the place, man. Hang in there, brother. I know we're making dua for you with this government mess and this furlough. Making dua for you that this thing is brief, inshallah. And also, man, making dua about your health. Please make dua about my brother and his health and his ribs. He's in recovery, but every dua helps. Want to give a shout out to my main man, Bilal Salahuddin, and his queen sister, Sonia Dalton Salahuddin, who were attendees, if you will, of the Bean Pie Festival in Houston. Always good to see my big brother and my sister come and enjoy themselves. You know, I'm going to say something, Bilal. This is really bad. Somebody gave me a pie, a bean pie called the Asiatic. Guy said he made it with black beans instead of regular beans. I'm here to tell you, that joint tasted like a dirty manhole covered with mustard. That joint was awful. And it was so bad, I didn't even want to give it to my enemies. I don't know what was in that pie, or if it sat out. I don't know what it was. It was bad, though. I think I got the worst bean pie of the spot. Okay, I had to get that out there. But anyway, we give a shout out to our sister, our dear sister, Satana Whitfield, working the back. Sister, I know that door was closing on you, jumping back through. God bless you. May Allah bless you for your perseverance, good sister. And we appreciate you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shout out to the family. Let me get to Instagram. I know we got a few people here. Okay, we got all right. Shaitan and Honda Spares. All right, they joined. Alhamdulillah. Appreciate it. So let me get to the crux of this conversation. I did a what I call a Friday reminder. I send these Friday reminders out, and I was talking about Sammy Davis Jr., who I openly admit to me was the greatest entertainer I've ever seen. I know there's Michael Jackson, but before Michael Jackson and after Michael Jackson, it's still Sammy Davis Jr., one of the most talented people I've ever seen in my life. The greatest entertainer, period. Sammy Davis Jr. was a civil rights advocate. I mean, he was a maverick. He was a pioneer for a whole lot of things. But his career is derailed in the 70s when he decided to support Richard Nixon to be the president of the United States. Let's be honest, Richard Nixon was an avowed racist. An avowed racist. He said things about black people. He think that we had the mental competency to do things, have business, go to school, all these things. Somehow, Sammy Davis Jr. voted for him, did concerts for him, campaigned for him. Black people hated him, and to a point, they were suspect of Sammy. Then Sammy Davis Jr. hugged Richard Nixon. Has a podcast called The Hug, heard around the world. And he lost essentially his black card. Now, to a man, looking on the outside, you would think it was really that simple. Like we talk about Muslims that lose their way in their deen or they're not practicing. And listen to what I was thinking about and what I heard. This podcast was very enlightening because you begin to understand that, first of all, Sammy Davis Jr., there's a clip of him celebrating his 60th year in business. He died when he was 64. What am I saying? He had been in the entertainment business since he was 3 years old. He died broke. He died broke. Some people say he died illiterate. He couldn't read. All these things. Still the greatest entertainer in the world. What Sammy Davis was looking for all of his life was acceptance. I mentioned Richard Nixon, but let me throw this out. He campaigned for John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy won and did not invite him to the inauguration because he married a white woman. And then on top of that, Sammy Davis Jr. was a huge supporter of the civil rights movement. I'm talking about giving King massive amounts of money, getting people out of the jail. But the thing, and this is a real thing, is that he couldn't be himself. Over here, he couldn't be himself. Over there, he could be himself. And I am largely finding that Muslims are finding themselves uncomfortable in non-Muslim environments, but also in Muslim environments, that they're not feeling that they can feel that way. The thing about Sammy Davis Jr. was he always wanted to be part of that crowd. When I thought about Richard Nixon, who I don't like to this day, Richard Nixon didn't like black people, but he loved Sammy Davis Jr. Put him on the presidential plane, put him in the presidential suite. He treated him nicer than a lot of black people treated him. And the parallel is for a lot of us Muslims in this society, like in a work environment, if you have 20 people and one of them are Muslim and they say, I got to pray, everybody looks at them really exaggeratedly because you know what? The other 19 don't do that. The other 19 don't do that. They won't tell you not to pray, but they'll make you feel uncomfortable in many regards. Not everywhere, but in a lot of places. It's happened to me, probably happened to you. The thing that's interesting is to be a part of that crowd, to be the Muslim in that space. The Muslim in that space, ultimately, you're going to have to do things to stay in that space that ultimately do what? Betray the Muslims that you came from. You, Sammy Davis Jr., ultimately betrayed the trust of the black people who put him there. And so it is in the Muslim community that in many regards, we find ourselves betraying, if you will, our own deen, not trusting in the tenets of faith. That's in the Muslim community, but it's also in the Christian community. But it's in the Muslim community because it's your time. You're on the block. You're the latest religion to come through. But also, this is a protest religion. So there's been no major protests out of, let's say, the Christian community because King led that. Jesse Jackson led that. That's a different type of leader. The Muslims had a different type of leader going back to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and Imam Wartadi Muhammad. We had a cadre of leaders that gave us intellectual presence. Hear what I'm talking about. Intellectual presence that built out, if you will, our faith. That our faith all of a sudden had application throughout society, not just our community. It evolved. The problem now, brothers and sisters, is that as we evolve, and let me tell you this, because every challenge is not a challenge. Really, every challenge is a blessing. You get an opportunity to find out who you are, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of. But that's human nature. It's the fine line between do you struggle or do you suffer? Think about that. What we have now, and this may be hard to explain, is that we have a cadre of people who are in these spaces, much the same as Sammy Davis Jr., who are in these spaces in America. We're not talking about the workplace. We're talking about the concept and foundational understanding of America, that they find themselves in that space. They are uncomfortable in media. They are uncomfortable in politics. They are uncomfortable in business. And ultimately, what we have seen, or I want to say over the last 30 years, is that those people have created communities, if you will, that do what? Betray Muslims. That they portray the larger demographic of Muslims. What's my proof? The same thing happened to the Christians. When Martin Luther King was assassinated, he was extremely unpopular. Now, the reason he's unpopular is because he got in those spaces. He got the Nobel Peace Prize. He got all these things. He's meeting with presidents, but he makes a fatal mistake. Literally, I believe it cost him life. He makes a fatal mistake because he chooses, in the most crucial of situations, to not play himself and his religion or his community small. He stands on his faith. He speaks to things that are unpopular with conviction, passion, and ethical understanding that they have to be changed. So while he may not have been able to go over to Vietnam, he understood his pulpit, if you will, his bully pulpit, and he spoke truth to power. And there were people who were hearing things who had never, ever thought about America that way. There's two things I'm going to say about living your Deen out loud. If you don't live it out loud, how you living? If you don't live it out loud, how are you living? What I'm saying is, listen, this is probably the most crucial time to not play your religion small. I'll give you a prime example. We send millions and billions of dollars to Gaza, to the residents of Gaza. There's need in Yemen. There's need in the Congo. There's need in all these places. Syria. Do you realize that these people who are under the most dire circumstances, who are dealing with aspects of suffering every day, the one thing that they don't do is play themselves small? Because that's the last thing that you can hold on to. A faith that builds you and a faith that helps you reconstruct yourself in the worst of situations. I thought about this and shout out and I have some things to say. I just shout out to our grandparents and our great-grandparents who lived, hear me now, who lived in situations, scenarios where legally you were supposed to play yourself small. Legally, people can help you play yourself small. And if you didn't do it, legally they could take you up out of there. Let me tell you one of the things that bothered me when I was a kid. And I'm talking about faith, and this goes back to being 4 and 5 years old, people. This is not Preacher Moss, a teenager, trying to figure out, what is going on. Because you know about right and wrong. You know about pain, and you know about happiness. You know about suffering at a very young age. I always had a problem, and I mean a major problem, trying to understand the civil rights movement as it was presented to me. It was not the aspect of suffrage of African Americans to lift themselves up as people tried to put them down or keep them down. That wasn't it. It was the idea of theological impetus. I think that the correct term is theodicy, whereby white people, particularly white Christians, because we're talking about white Christian nationalism now, pay attention, that white people thought that God had endured them, had ordained them, and knighted them, if you will, to perpetuate black suffrage. That these people were so lost, hear me now, were so lost that they thought that oppressing black people made God happy. Now, why is this important? It was the same thing that happened with the Native Americans. It was the same thing that happened with the Native Americans. They used these things that they were going to civilize as savages, if you will, knowing that many of them came over. They came over from Europe, practicing a bastardization of Christianity, the Lutheranism, all of these religions whereby clearly it wasn't working, because if it was working, they would be a part of that establishment. That religious, I want to say religious prioritization meant that these people were expendable, that they were the lower rungs of society. And who wanted a lower rung? What good is a lower rung? They send them here to the United States of America. Now, let's be real honest here as we start to wind this up a little bit. America has a problem. Because we talk about America and we talk about, Israel and things like that. Both of them have a problem, and it's a schizophrenic situation. Okay? It's a schizophrenic situation. Because you can go and find the rudimentary elements of Zionism, put it beside Hebrew studies, what is Israeli tradition, and they don't coincide. They don't match. Even the language does not match. That the aspects of the Talmud are not aspects of Zionist philosophy. That the Zionists that actually came are from Russia and Europe. They're not actually from the Middle East. And that's the policy that's being followed now. The U.S. has a problem, and here's a huge problem. Because this may accurately sum up Black life, Native American life, people of color life, but definitely Blacks and Native Americans, those who fought against white expansionism. Okay, here's the problem. It is like between Black America and white America, it's a forced marriage. But here's the deal. Black people never wanted to marry white people. White people never wanted to marry Black people. But they couldn't divorce them. They couldn't bring themselves to separate spiritually and do the right thing and divorce those people. Because there's something inherently special and spiritual about those people, whereby if I divorce them from them, I'm totally lost. Two thoughts. Let me give you one of them. That the resilience of the African American spirit is not the resilience of the African American spirits. It's a ghost that haunts America every day. It's a ghost that whispers past sins, past crime, past oppression, and they say after the whisper comes the reality. We're still here. That the growth and progression that you try to deny, you can't deny it. Every day Black people wake up. It reminds white America, certain aspects of white America, not all America, but certain aspects of white America, that you're not God. Number one. And then number two, you're not connected to God. That the appropriation and the oppression that you put on people in the reverse is you playing yourself small, playing your faith small. And more and more and more people are getting hip to it. In America, I'm going to go overseas on tour, inshallah. But in America, we only see a certain type of news. If you go overseas, you're going to see a lot of Europe is standing up against Israel. A lot of Europe is talking about a two-state solution in Palestine. But in America, you don't hear that. And you can give your own theories about why we don't hear that. But it has so much to do with the fact that these people that are trying to control these narratives are soulless. Soulless. Let me shout out some of the people in Instagram. Cousin Mimi, 412. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Riyadh Mori, how you doing? 111 Shaz, 111. Subhan, how you doing? Saeed Sawana, how you doing? Let's see. Kua Artworks has joined us too. Peace and blessings. And back on the spot, my main man, brother Eric Carter from South Kakalaki. What's going on, beloved? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. But let me get to the roundup. Why I said live your Deen out loud. If you had a gift, and it was in a really beautiful box, beautiful wrapping paper, beautiful bow. The only thing about that gift is that you hadn't opened it. You might have carried it around town, might have taken it on the trip, but you didn't open the gift. Why not? It seems odd that you may carry a box around, it's not open, or a gift around 2-3 days. That's okay, but maybe you carry it a year. Maybe you carry it 2 years. That box is like your Deen. And I don't mean Deen just in terms of faith. I'm talking about potential. Character, ethic, all the things that have shaped our beloved prophets. Peace and blessings be upon them. Of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and all of the righteous servants, from all of them. Isa, everybody, Musa, everybody, Ibrahim, everybody, at some point in time has taken this box and opened it. And in opening the box, it's not like they kept the gift, they gave the gift around. I earlier talked about, and I know I got to get off, but I talked about being in those offices and you're the only Muslim. You know what the leverage is? You know how you make it even? Is that you live your Deen out loud. And you know what? Instead of you playing yourself small, maybe some of the people around you play themselves small or play themselves honest. And just say, hey, I respect you. All right, look, this is the show. I got to go. Peace and blessings to everybody. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shout out to Satana, who spent, we use StreamYard. It's almost like a house. So it looked like she lost her keys and got locked out and came in and lost her keys again and got locked out and came in and lost her keys again. And I couldn't let her in. You know why? Because it was her keys. It was her house. All right. So look, y'all have been great. Take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And please live your deen out loud. Please. Assalamu alaikum.